Hey y'all, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are when you see this video. Thank you for joining me, Dorothea, on Through an Orthodox Christian Lens. It's still November 28th, 2025. The month is almost over. It's unreal. I'm going to go over a lot of Middle Eastern stories that we need to catch up on regarding that area because I haven't really talked about it too much, and there's a lot going on. And then, of course, I'll be talking about this years of tribulation, 2026 and 27, that Christopher from the Holy Wisdom Channel put out this afternoon. I'm going to go over it, give my thoughts on it and everything. And so let's start with these stories here. I want to get through these Middle East stories really quickly. Right, so this was on the 26th reported. Knesset advances bill allowing Israelis to purchase land in occupied West Bank. Now they've been doing this. They've been doing this for a while. Remember, they had done like a supposed vote on that when J.D. Vance was still there in Jerusalem. Well, they now have done this. The measure opens the door for Israelis to seize more occupied land while sidestepping long-standing legal constraints. So the committee approved on 25 November a draft law that would allow Izzies to purchase property across the occupied West Bank. Remember, there's a lot of Christians over there. The bill was introduced by Likud MK, I guess that's the Likud members, Edelstein, Harmelech, and so on. So it's they're of the religious Zionism party. Gee, what a surprise. According to the Knesset press office, 4 MKs voted in favor with no objections recorded, though it did not disclose how many committee members were present. So the Knesset committees, bills advance with a simple majority of whoever happens to be in the room. No date was given for when the legislation will move to its first reading in the plenum, the first of 3 required votes before becoming law, I see. The Knesset said the proposal would cancel the Jordanian law regarding leasing and selling properties to foreigners and allow any person to purchase real estate in what it calls Judea and Samaria. In practice, the measure clears a path for Izzies to claim more land under occupation while bypassing long-standing legal barriers. While the Palestinian Authority and Jordan have yet to comment on the bill's advancement, Hamas published a statement condemning the motion, saying that Izzi's fascist occupation government seeks to impose new facts on the ground as part of its ongoing plans to Judaize and annex the West Bank. Hamas called on the Arab League, the United Nations, and its relevant institutions to act swiftly and effectively to confront these blatant violations of UN resolutions and pressure the Izzy government to stop its settlement expansion. Good luck. I really don't think they're going to do anything, especially the Arab League. This bill marks the latest in a long series of steps that Izzy is taking to push toward de facto annexation of the occupied West Bank, even as earlier annexation bills remain frozen after advancing only through preliminary readings. So, that's what's happening there. And as you know, Ben Gvir has been talking about this for a while, so it's not too surprising that they're voting on this and this bill and all that. It's, well, not great, but not surprising. Next story. Again, as you know, it's heating up between ISI and Lebanon. We will disarm Hezbollah. ISI war chief threatens new war in Lebanon. So, ISI defense minister Izzy Katz threatened on 26 November that Tel Aviv will launch a new war against Lebanon if Hezbollah does not surrender its weapons by the end of 2025. We will not allow any threats against the inhabitants of the north. The maximum enforcement will continue and even intensify, he says, addressing Izzy's Knesset. As we proved a few days ago with the elimination, there will be no calm in Beirut, nor order and stability in Lebanon until the security of the state of Izzy is guaranteed. He added, he's referring to Izzy's assassination of Hezbollah Chief of Staff Haytham al-Tabba, I can't say, sorry, in Beirut's southern suburb days ago. If Hezbollah does not give up its weapons by the year's end, we will work forcefully again in Lebanon. We will disarm them. He added that Washington has given Beirut until the end of this year to disarm the Lebanese resistance, but said, I do not believe that Hezbollah will hand over its weapons voluntarily. Well, yeah, no kidding. They need to protect their own people. The Izzy minister also said Tel Aviv is considering withdrawing from the maritime border deal reached indirectly between Lebanon and Israel, Izzy, in 2022. We will reconsider our position on the maritime border agreement with Lebanon because it contains many weaknesses and serious problematic issues. So it goes on and on. The maritime border deal was reached before Izzy Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's government came to power, while opposition leader Yair Lapid was still prime minister. Netanyahu and his coalition slammed the deal at the time, threatening to nullify it. The Lebanese state has not yet been able to reap the benefits of the agreement due to delays by a Western and Gulf-led consortium of energy firms. Beirut was informed that no commercially viable gas was found in the Qana gas field, and the consortium has continued to stall in submitting a technical report on the matter. Katz's comments came as Lebanon officially finalized a maritime border agreement with Cyprus. The defense minister's new threat against Lebanon also comes one day ahead of Pope Leo XIV's, was that right? The 14th? The 14th visit to the country. I've just never seen a more hawkish, warmongering, constant militant country than Izzy. They're just wanting to get rid of everybody. They want the whole area there in the Middle East, and there's not allowed to be any people except them. How prejudiced. It's just really disgusting. So again, and then Egypt warns Lebanon of massive Izzy bombing campaign, ground invasion. Oh, Lord. Egyptian Foreign Minister Badr Abdelhadi has warned Lebanon that it is on the verge of being hit with a massive Izzy bombing campaign and ground invasion unless Hezbollah is immediately disarmed. Yes, well, we've all heard that. So he met with top Lebanese officials and discussed the ceasefire between Hezbollah and Izzy. There was no ceasefire because Izzy continues to bomb Lebanon throughout this whole time. They never listen. They never listen. And I will tell you that today I was listening to the two Larrys, Colonel Larry Wilkerson and Larry Johnson, okay? And they're both, Colonel Wilkerson obviously was in the military, as you know, and then Larry Johnson was a CIA analyst. both of them think that if this Izzy and Iran war restarts up, now Larry Johnson doesn't think it's going to start back up. I think it was he who said that, because it would be dangerous to do that, because basically Iran would pulverize the Izzies. But Colonel Wilkerson believes that they will attack. Either one. I can't remember which one, but I think that's what it was. And both of them agree that there is not going to be a state of Izzy after this. Anyway. Okay, so let's go on from there. This is quite interesting. It's Greek Minister of Defense calls to protect Christians in the Middle East. They're also working on fixing parts of the Holy Sepulchre, portions in there that needed some work, and they're going to be they're funding any of the things that need to be renovated in the Holy Sepulchre. So let's see, this came out the 15th of November. The head of the department emphasized that Greece will continue to support the Orthodox patriarchates of Lebanon and Syria, which is good. So on the 13th of November, the Minister of National Defense of Greece, Nikos Dendias, once again raised the issue of protecting the Christian population in the Middle East. This was reported by Orthodox news agency. During a meeting in Athens with the Minister of Defense of Lebanon, Michel Manasseh, the head of the Defense Department of Greece, called the support of Christian communities in the region a priority for Athens. He emphasized that Greece consistently opposes any forms of violence aimed at restricting religious freedom. According to Dendias, Christian communities in the Middle East are indigenous to the region and an important part of the cultural and historical tradition of countries, including Lebanon and Syria. In this regard, Greece intends to continue supporting the Greek Orthodox patriarchates operating in these territories. The minister also recalled Athens' ongoing initiatives related to educational and cultural cooperation, particularly with the University of Balamand. He noted that Greece continues to deepen contacts with religious and academic centers in Lebanon. You see, people forget that there's a bunch of Lebanese Orthodox Christians there. So, you see. In conclusion, Dendias confirmed that the protection of Christian communities remains one of the constant directions of the Greece foreign policy in the region, which is nice to see. But I'm not really sure how they're going to do it. As far as I understand it, the Greek military isn't quite that strong, but it's nice that they want to do that. Two more little stories here. We got the thing still going on between the Izzies and Turkey. So first we'll start with this portion. Flagrant violation of Syria's sovereignty. Qatar and Jordan denounce Izzy attack in Damascus countryside. So not only do we have ISIS running around there in Homs, we now have we have this also going on in the southern area, which is they just want to take over the land. Okay, the Izzies want to take over, and they always have. And Turkey, they're doing the same thing. They want to take over Syria as well. So, as you know, this has been going on. They're having conflicts, which Metropolitan Neophytus has talked about. They denounced the Izzy strikes on the town of Bet Jin, near Damascus, which killed and injured several civilians, calling it a violation of Syrian sovereignty and international law. In a statement, Qatar's foreign ministry said the escalation deepens tensions and undermines efforts to achieve security and stability in the region. The ministry called on the international community to take immediate action to stop the Izzy violations, protect civilians, and hold those responsible accountable under international law. Qatar reaffirmed its full solidarity with Syria's government and people, expressing support for all efforts aimed at ending the attacks and preserving Syria's security, stability, and territorial integrity. Jordan also condemned the ISI attack, describing it as a dangerous and provocative escalation that only fuels regional tensions and conflict. In a statement, the foreign ministry said, "The kingdom strongly condemns the incursion and strikes which resulted in the deaths and injuries of dozens of Syrians." So, yeah, they're against all that. Okay, so one other story. As I said, Turkey calls on ISI to halt strikes in Syria. Same thing. Says they threaten civilians, regional stability. So Turkey they're putting their views on that and the same thing that happened. And so we have 3 different countries telling them to stop that. Which, what good does that do? There's no accountability for ISI. So they urged ISI to immediately halt its attacks on the town of Jin in rural Damascus, saying the strikes violate, blah, blah, blah. So it's the same thing. So they're asking the same thing. I just, the same old stuff going on, heating up, just trying to get rid of everybody in the region. Okay. Now, having said all that, we're going to go now to the Holy Wisdom's video that they did today. And I'm gonna play it, and I'm gonna talk about it a little bit. And there's something else I want to add also in this, but let me just get first part here done.
Expert analyses and prophecies converge on this period, with 2026 standing out as a unification point, a moment when strategic tensions, analyst predictions, and Orthodox prophecies align. Many Orthodox Christians believe this time will usher in the beginning of tribulation and the emergence of what are often called the great events.
Okay, so he's talking about, that it's his opinions, as we said, that he believes that the expert analyses, I guess, that and prophecies converge on this period. Yes, there's been a lot of analyzing and all that going on. I don't know from, maybe he's talking about the ones in Greece. I don't know. But here, yes, we have analysts that I listen to here. Yes, things are heating up, and they have been heating up for quite a while. Now it's like a pivotal chapter in global history. Here he's saying that 2026, that's not too far off now, and 2027, it's going to be the expected mark of this. Basically, I think it sounds like the next phases in World War III, and he'll get into that. So the beginning of tribulation. And we'll see what else he says here. Let's go on.
According to the Holy Wisdom, the timeline we present marks a transformative period destined to reshape humanity. In the first half of 2026, mounting tensions are expected across the Middle East, particularly between Israel and Iran.
Okay, well, as you see, I'm already showing the reports I just gave you, shows you there's instability and unrest there as always, but things are constantly going on there, and we know there'll be a second part to the ISI and Iran war. So everybody knows that's coming, so it makes sense.
Hostilities between Russia and NATO intensify.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, Greek-Turkish relations will steadily deteriorate.
Mm-hmm.
These tensions can begin as early as January-February 2026, when Turkey plans to deploy new drilling vessels to gas fields in the Aegean Sea.
Okay, so that's when that's supposed to happen? The Turkey's planning to deploy new drilling vessels to gas fields in the Aegean Sea at that time. Can begin as early as January and February 2026. So that's, I take it he has some news from Greece or Turkey that's saying that this is going to be happening at that time. the drilling vessels?
A decisive move in its energy exploration strategy. During this period, the Turkey-Greece dispute over the Muslim minority in Western Thrace is expected to
Intensify, yeah. Saint Paisios mentions the Thrace issue that the Holy Wisdom put out a few months back, and that I played and discussed as well. So this is a reminder about that point.
In response, Greece may consider extending its territorial waters around Crete to 12 nautical miles, a development with significant geopolitical implications. Also, we still awaiting the fulfillment of the second part of Elder Theodore Nilos of Agiopharago's prophecy, the anticipated fall of Turkish leader Recep Tayyip Erdogan. As the prophecy declares, when the Jews hit Persia's nuclear program, then the great events will begin. At the same time, or a little earlier, Erdogan will fall. By May 2026, global tensions are projected to escalate significantly.
Okay. Now, before we go any further in this portion, I want to say that I did watch this earlier today, and there isn't a mention about the blood moon prophecy that I think it was Elder Vasilios that said. And that was brought up in September because there was a blood moon in September, if you recall. And that was brought up then. And then I thought to myself, no, it doesn't seem like the right time. And so I'm going to go ahead and jump over to that really quickly to just remind people about that. So he says, Elder Vasilios also spoke of celestial signs. He said, after the red moon, it will all begin. Everyone will see it visible on the horizon. As the sun rules the day, the moon will burn crimson like flame. He warned them the decision makers must be prepared, for it is written that the godless will invade the island and innocent blood will be shed.
He went on to predict, the time draws near when the Turks will seize 3 islands, yes. Lesvos, Chios, and Rhodes.
Okay, so he's actually saying those 3 islands, and it's going to be mentioned in the other thing. But what I wanted to say on that is, there was the blood moon in September, and perhaps there's no time. We have no idea what time between the time of the blood moon and all this other stuff can happen. Okay, but I will say that there is a blood moon, as I've said before. I've said this before, that there is a blood moon, March 2026. Okay, and that is important because that lines up a bit more to what else is going to be said in what he says today and this video on the tribulation time in the years here of 26 and 27. So I only say that because with the blood moon, the finishing up of that E65, I think it was, road that connects to the Ignatian road, that's supposed to happen in late spring next year. So let's go back to that. Just wanted to remind you all of that part.
Meanwhile, the E65 motorway is scheduled for completion in May or June 2026, linking central Greece, Thessaly, and western Macedonia directly to the Ignatian Road, A2. This northern section will finalize the 182-kilometer route, marking a milestone in Greece's infrastructure development. The revered Father Panagiotis Tsioulis, known as the Elder of Agrippa, had already foreseen its significance, warning in 2011 about what will happen when the new road is completed.
Yes.
George the War will break out when the new road connecting Domaku to Lamia is completed. Then there will be a great famine in Greece. It won't last long. And then we will go to the city, Vasilevousa, also known as Hagia Sophia. Also, a profound economic shift is anticipated. Greece may enter a phase of political turbulence, accompanied by a global collapse of economies and the stock market. A simultaneous crash of both the dollar and the euro is foreseen, signaling a wide...
Well, it's kind of interesting when they said that the collapse of both the dollar and the euro, that he's saying this elder had said. There's also Elder Jonah of Edessa had said that the dollar was going to be worth nothing and the euro was just going to disappear. It's interesting. I just noticed that there's those two things, two different elders saying this from different countries.
Global upheaval. Elder Joseph of WWIII prophesied long ago, warning of these trials. There will be a political anomaly. When this political anomaly in Greece is going to happen, the capital will pull back immediately. The global capital, the international and Jewish one. Right as the international capital pulls back, every employee will be laid off. Around this time, the Greek-Turkish conflict in the Aegean Sea is expected to erupt. The confrontation may endure from several days to several months, with the possible occupation of Greek islands for approximately 3 months before Russian intervention. Turkey is anticipated to pivot further toward the west, reshaping its strategic alignment. By late summer, around August or September 2026, the outbreak of a Russo-Turkish war and the recapture of Constantinople is anticipated.
Now, why does he say that particular time? Is he figuring because of the 3 months of the occupation, the Turkish occupation of those 3 islands mentioned by that elder? Is that how he calculated that out? That could be how he came up with that. That would be like 3 months later. So perhaps that's how he came up with that.
May unfold later. During this turbulent period, the first use of nuclear weapons is considered a possibility. Here begins the critical phase. Russia and China advance into the Middle East, while a part of NATO European nations initiates the formation of a unified army. The prophecy of Saint Methodius of Patara, who fell asleep in the Lord on 311 AD, speaks with striking imagery and chilling detail. It states, "The blonde nation will have control over the seven-hilled city, Constantinople, for the course of 5 or 6 months, and many people will eat to render justice to the saints."
Of course, you know the blonde nation is the Russians.
There will be 3 provident leaders to govern in the east. Following them will rise another independent one to govern, and after him another wolf very wild. And the nations that are located in the north will be disturbed and will be moved into action with great speed and fierce anger, and they will be organized into 4 groups. One will spend the winter in Ephesus, the second one in Malaysia, the third in Pergamum, and the fourth in Bithynia. Then the nations that are situated in the southern corner will be roused into action, and the great Philip, with an army composed of peoples speaking 18 different languages, will get together in the 7th-hilled city, and will begin a war such as one has never happened before. And they will be very swift in invading both the thoroughfares and the narrow streets of the 7th-hilled city, and the killing of the people will flow like a river, and the sea will turn turbid and darkened by the blood till the bottom of the abyss.
Of course, you know, the older, centuries old prophecies are a lot more symbolic, allegoric, metaphoric, harder to understand than ones that are closer to the time that it happens and more understandable for us. It's those older ones are much more hard to understand. But this just reminds me, yes, of course, they're talking about the battle, in the Constantinople area, and of course, that whole thing of the thoroughfares and the narrow streets and all that, which reminds me of the NATO armies coming through parts of that Greece and that road, the E65 Ignatian 1, 2, those 2 roads that connect, where that elder of Agorapha had said was there was going to be terrible things, terrible killings going on there, and including the civilians in that area especially. So they're supposed to run to the mountains. Anyway.
Around this time, an immense natural disaster is expected to strike the United States.
Okay, yes, let's not forget that, because that was about the San Andreas Fault, if you remember, and possible volcanoes erupting, and the shores being hit with tsunamis, and of course the breaking off and becoming a partial America. If you remember, one of the elders had spoken on that.
A profound shift in global balance of power. This event will serve as a catalyst for geopolitical realignment, shaking the foundations of existing structures. As the world reels from its impact, preparations intensify for the final battle at Constantinople, anticipated in spring or summer.
Okay. So, this is the part that was kind of confusing to me. Now, then the nations that are situated in the southern corner will be roused into action, and the great Philip, with an army composed of people speaking 18 different languages, will get together in the seventh hill. Now, he had said the seventh hill city was Constantinople. So, and will begin a war such as one has never happened before, and they would be very swift in invading both of thoroughfares. So there are the streets of Constantinople, and the killing of people will flow. Yes. So, and then of course the thing happens with America, but I'm confused where it says that shaking the foundations of existing. Okay, as the world reels from its impact, preparations intensify for the first battle at Constantinople anticipated. Okay, so what that tells me is that they're on their march to Constantinople, and that part that the elder of Agrippa said, which was that what I just discussed. I think that's what I'm understanding that as, that the people, they're saying the women were going to be raped, and I mean it's just terrible at any age, and people were just going to be killed, butchered. And some of them would be spared by going to the mountains. I think that's what that's discussing here. I think that's what that's about. So that's on their way to Constantinople. And then I guess he's saying down here, preparation to intensify the final battle. Of course, the final battle to me, I thought was the most bloody. It was supposed to be the most bloody one, is that 3 days and 3 nights or whatever it was. Yeah, I think it's 3 days, 3 nights. When everybody gets, there, as it said, 18 nations, but everybody shows up, and that was supposed to be a big. So, but with world wars, you accumulate all of the deaths over all of the conflicts and that are involved in these phases of this world war. So then I think, okay, then that means that Elder Joseph of WWIII was saying, 700 million or whatever it was. I think that's what he's talking about here. Hopefully I'm making sense.
27. According to the testimony of Archangel Michael, delivered on July 22, 2020, his words warned of upheaval, purification, and the emergence of divine justice. The faithful are called to remain vigilant, for the trials ahead will test nations and souls alike. Tell your son that you spoke with me, and tell him to repent, because in 7 years from today, the Archangel Michael will come and stab his fiery sword over there. He pointed towards the center of Igumenica. And then everything you have experienced during these 7 years will come to an end. After that, you will live for many, many years in Christ. Brothers and sisters in Christ, as we stand in steadfast anticipation, fortified by faith, patience, and perseverance, we await the unfolding of God's divine will.
Okay. And so this is what, I assume he had some information on this that he has been compiling regarding the next year and how these events are unfolding. Of course, it makes sense to me what he's saying here, but and he even says this at the end of his video, that, you know, all of these things can change because of our prayers of repentance. Always praying that God lessens the catastrophic events that are to come. And we can alter that. We can push back all of this stuff, because I definitely don't want to, I'm not excited or looking forward to a world, this big part of this world war. And so I think it's important that we continue to pray on that, and so that it's not as bad and not as many people's lives are lost. You know, it's just, it's important. But all of those points in there, you know, there's just several different aspects to this war, which is like any world war. There's a lot of key elements, a lot of elements in this, a lot of parts to this machine. So, you know, the Turkey-Greece thing, the Russia-Turkey thing, the Iran-Israel thing, the Syria thing, the Russia-NATO conflict, war. I mean, all these things are conflicts or wars within World War III. So I think I got out everything I was trying to say. The road issue, you know, finishing that up, the timing, and then I just added the blood moon in there. Now, I mean, sure, it could have been September, and then, you know, you wait so long because you don't really have a time between the blood moon and these other things. He had just said, yes, it's going to start after the blood moon. Well, that could be months, years, who knows? There's never timetables, direct, you know, exact timing on all this. That's not what prophecies are for. They're for repenting and for prayer and for lessening things to come by listening and heeding what is being told to us. So, please share your thoughts on this, what you think on this information. If you find, I'd appreciate anything you have to share on that. And I hope my breakdown interpretation made some sense and was helpful in some way. Thanks so much for watching, for following my channel. I hope you have a blessed day, evening, afternoon. Until next time.